Some of the most important times as a teacher is like before the bell rings and after the bell rings.
Yeah.
That's
Just
like,
enough time to snort a line.
Yeah, I thought you meant a bit. Welcome back, everybody. We are here again, not live, but together live in the same room doing a podcast, which is the way it should be. We're not doing this via live stream. That's old school. We don't do that anymore. And we have a guest with us, an old guest, a friend of ours, Mr. Ryan Cowden.
what's up?
Whoa. He came back for another one. Or did we record this the same time we did the other one that looks exactly like this podcast?
Don't tell him our tricks, Dillon.
Hey, listen, Joel, I'll tell him everything I want.
No one saw the other one. The hell?
I don't know why we bring you around.
I don't know either.
Cody the
Stop
naysayer.
inviting me.
No, Ryan is an educator. You were a middle school teacher for how many years?
6 years.
6 years.
Jeez.
Wow.
I did 4 tours of duty in middle school.
Wow.
1 as a student and then 3 as a teacher.
4 tours. Well, and also you as well, you took that experience and you now have your own podcast, and it's called the School of Thought Podcast, correct?
That's right.
This is the part where you plug it.
This is the part where I plug it. School of Thought podcast. So it's about education, and it's kind of for teachers, but it's also kind of for anyone. We talk about leadership, we talk about communication, and I just interview a lot of interesting people. So
I've listened to a few, and they're actually it's way different than the format we hear. We kind of goof around on this podcast a lot. Like, I don't know if
What are you talking about, Dillon?
Hey, listen, we take ourselves super seriously.
Yeah.
Exactly. But no, if you actually listen to Ryan's podcast, you can actually get a lot out of it. And you were telling me a guest that you just had on was like communication director for the White House or something like that?
he was the director of the Situation Room, where the president gets all the military briefings. And before that, he commanded a minesweeper in Desert Storm. So,
Oh, we've all done that.
yeah, right.
So you just had really
Just a normal run-of-the-mill guest on my podcast.
just had really boring stories, probably.
Yeah.
And here we are over here just talking about, Cody's moles.
What else do you want to know about? That's all I got.
So that means that we've both been through the process of launching a podcast, and we know that there's nothing more embarrassing in life than announcing to the world, I have a podcast.
Yes.
Which is what everybody needs, is another dude hosting another podcast.
We don't need more engineers. We don't need more doctors.
We don't need more science.
We need more podcasting.
More podcasts.
More podcasts.
People need to hear our thoughts
Yeah.
and experience our wisdom.
Right.
So, I mean, I know as an educator that's a heavy toll to take on yourself, and
yeah.
you would classify yourself as an introvert as well, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
How did you become a teacher? Because I think actually Joel mentioned this in one of the previous podcasts, where I don't know how anybody, introvert or extrovert, has the energy to sustain that amount of people where they have to present, and it's just a different amount of people all the time.
Yeah, I don't know how even extroverts manage teaching, but I had a total of about 170 to 180 students, and I was speaking to them for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 10 months a year. So,
How are you still doing this?
well, I mean, that's why I quit back in May. Started a podcast.
He rage quit.
I like talking to one person at a time, once a week. That's my pace. But I mean, that's honestly part of like my passion for the podcast is there's a lot of people who get into teaching for the right reasons and they know a lot. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't required to take any public speaking courses to get ready to become a teacher.
Really?
And I just feel like it's unfair for the teacher and it's unfair for the students. You know a lot about your topic, but like on what planet is it okay for me to take a job as a teacher and not have a single public speaking course?
Yeah.
Yeah. What if you stutter a lot?
Yeah.
They would never know.
Right. They would have no idea.
I have an important question. What subject did you teach?
History.
Okay.
So I did the Middle Ages, which is way cool.
The Middle
Talk about
Ages.
the plague.
That's a
It's a lot of gory,
solid period of time.
There's a lot of
1980 to
travesties.
1999.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
2 years.
1999.
Yeah, way back. Yeah, I had my first experience of getting old. I had kids who had been born, they hadn't even been alive during 9/11. And that was like, oh wow, you guys weren't even alive? What have you guys heard? You know,
That's
what have you guys heard about
really-
9/11?
That's
That's
really
bizarre.
bizarre. Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, anybody, it's 2018 right now when we're recording this. That means an 18-year-old was born in the year 2000. An adult was born in the year 2000.
Stop it, Dylan.
Yeah.
Stop it.
We're getting old, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, we all knew Cody was.
Pretty old.
So why history? Why that subject?
history was always my favorite subject. I kind of have this weird theory that as a teacher, you should be required to teach something that's not your favorite subject. Because as a history teacher, if a student ever said, "I don't understand history," I'd be like, "What don't you get?" You know,
What's wrong with you?
what do you mean you don't get it? But like if I had ever been a math teacher, I feel like if a kid says, "I don't get it," I could have sympathized a lot more with that kid and been like, "Yeah, I don't get it either. Let's figure this out."
Yeah, me either.
So we should all teach what we're not smart at, is what I'm saying.
All right.
So you're saying you don't know much history?
I have a question, Ryan. Do you think you were well liked as a teacher by your students?
Oh, that's a good question. I was the cool teacher,
Oh,
and because I was the youngest person on campus, and
Even
that's
students.
very like not easy as a teacher. Because like when you actually need your kids to do stuff, they're like, "I thought you were cool, Mr. Cowden."
Yeah.
None of the other teachers had to put up with any of that, and for me, it's like, thanks.
When it gets
But
down
I kind
to
of need you to
brass
do your
tacks.
homework tonight.
Yeah.
It's not as much fun to be cool.
Yeah.
You know?
There's an actual curriculum here. We have to do
Yeah.
some work.
Right,
Like, sorry.
Oh, there's a site where students can rate their instructors. Did you ever?
There's
take a
Rate
peek
my
at-
teacher.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that what it is?
Yeah.
Rate what?
Yelp.
Yelp.
Come on, Dill.
Did you ever get rated on that?
I've looked my name up a few times. I don't have anything up. So
Maybe that's more like
I do a good job
change that.
scrubbing the internet, is what I'm saying. I can scrub
Searching yourself.
like no one else.
What's new today?
But
how often do you Google yourself?
it's different. I don't want to go there. No, but part of my passion for doing the podcast is kind of shining a good light on education, because whenever you hear a news report on education, it's never good. Like on NPR, hey, the new SAT scores are in, and get ready. It's never good news.
Classic America.
Everybody's super stupid.
Right.
We're number
Let's talk about the education system in America. How many people are actually staying on that channel versus switching the station?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. So, do you have any horror stories that you could share that won't? I mean, no, nothing in particular to name drop anybody, but
Well, I've got a horror story just in it's probably just like a bad first day of work story. But I was hired to be a long-term sub at a high school. And so I went the first day just to observe the teacher I was teaching. And I ran into the principal and the vice principal of the school. And I stood there in the hallway talking to them for probably like 20 minutes. And at the end of the 20 minutes, they were like, "You know, your pants are unzipped."
Oh my gosh. Why were you wearing pants?
My shirt was tucked in and like part of the shirt was sticking out. And I was like, "Oh, these guys."
That's amazing.
I'm the one they hired too. So,
this is more about them than it is about you.
right.
Was it immediate or did they like wait a while?
Well, no, it was like 20 minutes into the conversation.
Oh,
I was
20
standing
minutes.
for a while talking to them.
The whole time you're like, why are they staring at my crotch?
Yeah.
And why is there a
I didn't
breeze
think I
down
was
there?
that funny, but
Is there
they're
a
laughing
breeze
a
down
lot. That was pretty bad.
there? Oh, good heavens!
But yeah, it's classic. Teaching is fake it till you make it. You just pretend like you know what you're doing.
I feel like that's the same with every profession.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think
True.
everybody has
Right.
that imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like I shouldn't be
Someone's
here.
going to find out eventually I'm a fraud.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I found out a long time ago.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
shut
you know
your
what? My
mouth.
first, my first year, I made an offhanded joke about Santa Claus, and I thought I was safe in the 7th grade, but I got a parent phone call,
Oh, nice.
and so did the principal of my school about, our daughter still believes in Santa Claus, and I thought I was safe in 7th grade.
Wow. It should be safe in 7th.
It should be
It
safe,
definitely
right?
should have been safe.
Yeah. I think you had nothing to apologize for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty bad.
That was like a 2 to 3 day, manage that situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no shame on you. That's shame on the parents.
Yeah.
honestly. In middle school, the kids, how old are they? They're
That's like 12, 13.
Oh yeah, come on. If you're 13,
That's a problem.
yeah. I knew Santa Claus wasn't real the day I was born.
Yeah, right.
You told me.
Yeah. Cody whispered it in Dillon's ear in his crib.
He was like, "Hi, I'm Cody. Santa Claus ain't real."
Did the stork tell you?
Exactly.
Santa Claus's dad.
That guy.
That guy.
Well, oh, I get it.
Do you guys have a favorite movie portrayal of school? Like
Kindergarten Cop.
Kindergarten Cop?
Yeah. I imagine that's how it's really like.
That's
You like to eat other people's lunches? Stop it.
Doesn't he train them with
Not
like the
a
whistle?
tumor.
He's like drilling them.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Yeah,
That's the dream.
It's the dream. You lack discipline.
It's what all the teachers talked about in the lunchroom,
Yeah.
in the faculty room.
Arnold Schwarzenegger in Kindergarten Cop is the dream, guys. Yeah, as far as School of Rock always comes to mind. That one's pretty funny. I'm trying to think of
Stand and deliver. No, guys.
Stand and deliver.
It's a good
what
one.
that movie is. I'm just like, what?
Dead Poet Society.
Edward.
Yeah, that's a classic.
what was
Yeah.
it, Edward James Olmos
Oh,
as the math
yes,
teacher.
that's right.
That's a great
True
teacher
story.
movie.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
one.
true story. That's a fantastic movie.
Goodwill Hunting.
I like Mr. Holland's Opus.
Ooh, that's a good
Musical
one.
It's a
That's a
tear
good one.
jerker.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's such a good movie.
So apparently Fast Times at Ridgemont High was Cameron Crowe going undercover. He like went to a high school for a couple weeks and just recorded everything that was happening, and that's what that movie is.
Kind of creepy.
Heck.
That's like investigative reporting.
That's like that plot of that movie, Never Been Kissed.
Oh, is it really?
With Drew Barrymore, she needs to get like an investigative reporting on like the school students or something like that, and she pretends to be a high school student, and she was a nerd, and it's a typical like chick flick. Or
Yeah.
she suddenly becomes popular, and the hot guy likes her or something like that. She's like, oh, I never thought. That's the end of that story.
Well,
You did good, Dylan. Good sum up.
I wouldn't recommend it.
I've always
a good movie.
found history to be one of those subjects that was, no offense, but just the most pointless, most useless to me. It's just
Ryan,
one.
what do you
taken.
He probably agrees with me.
Ooh, finally agrees. You guys have been arguing this whole time.
Well, like anything before like
1980.
1980, anything before 1400, I'm like, does it really matter right now? I don't know. I know we're supposed to learn history to not repeat our mistakes, but like we repeat them anyway. First of all,
Touche.
and like, shouldn't I be using this time to like learn things that I could possibly use later in my life, like the stock market or finances?
Rebuttal.
I would say
I
it's
know.
hard to learn something new if you don't know where like the source of that information comes from.
Yeah, I know we have to know a little bit of history, but like they go so in depth with like the most absurd tribes that existed, and they're like building rock huts. I'm just like, oh my god, do we need to know this?
Yeah, the cuneiforms. Don't you know about the
Oh yeah,
the cuneiform
I
tablets?
remember that.
Come on.
Yes,
That's incredibly relevant.
cuneiforms.
The cuneiforms.
You didn't fill that form out?
I I have to think about that every day, just like the cuneiforms.
You log into
All
work.
stressed out about them.
Cuneiforms.
No, I actually, not to. I mean, you'll get them in a second, but I used to be the same way. But actually, my favorite teacher I ever had was my old coach,
Wilson?
Wilson.
Oh yeah,
My
buddy.
favorite teacher I ever had, and he changed my mind on history. And I think a lot of it is due to he just was a good teacher. He didn't have any particular method. He just stood up and lectured the whole time. But I found it incredibly fascinating. I mean, I might be a little biased, but it was American history. So it's just like, hey, America. So it's really relevant to where we're at now. But I do agree that there are certain things that's like, I don't need to know the exact details of whatever tribe took over this tribe at this point. We can take away probably the details and keep the general lesson that can be learned from history. And you can learn at certain points of, I mean, like what Joel just said, which is the best way to predict the future is to know the past. And if you know
never said
history,
You're gonna say it. He knows the future.
Joel, can I talk to you in the other podcast?
We can mute you.
You're not really here. You're a hologram.
You're You're not real.
No, but I do think that that is the best way to anticipate the future and understand previous mistakes is the more you know about history, the more you can not repeat it. But I do agree that sometimes it delves into things where you're like, I don't need to know Napoleon Dynamite's pants size.
Napoleon Dynamite.
They did.
All right, yeah.
Actually, don't know that. I don't know that.
Napoleon blown apart.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Napoleon was blown
You say
apart.
Napoleon Dynamite?
You mean Napoleon Bonaparte?
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, Napoleon blown apart. Napoleon was blown apart.
Napoleon blown apart.
Linoleum
I was
blown
teaching about
apart.
the wrong Napoleon in class.
Apparently,
I didn't even catch that.
He had a pet llama.
I just lost all
Yeah.
credibility in everything I just said.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, wait,
Dillon,
what are you talking about?
Dillon taught himself history, apparently.
We all learned something today.
Oh my god.
Gladiator happened like 20 years ago.
I think it was the well, it was a lot of different. I had a lot of different history courses, but like I think it was like in the later years when I stopped. It was anything like not American history. I just couldn't grasp. Like, no offense to the rest of the world. It was just like because it didn't seem relevant to me. So like I was like the American history side, like I paid more attention to. So like
Yeah.
that's beneficial.
I'd like to hear from Ryan.
Yeah.
Well, I can say there's two schools of thought in education. One is that there's actually a school of thought that says the content doesn't matter at all. That history is just an opportunity for you to practice like reading, writing, and research. So if you're like project based in history, you're just creating opportunities for kids to dig in and learn stuff. The other kind of school of thought is like that this is the story of us, I guess. Mm-hmm. So everything that we know about the world is predicated on having an understanding of where we've been, like knowing that white people come from Europe and we are not native to America, right? Like that explains a lot, right?
Right.
If you don't have an understanding of the Civil War, it's very hard to understand like the racial tension that's happening in America right now. Mm-hmm. And I think in the back of our heads, there's kind of this story of where we've been. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have that, I think you're just lost as to like, what's happening? You know what I mean?
Man, you just blew my mind.
So
Things get all deep.
Who am I?
Who am I?
who am I?
Who am I?
Where am I?
Yeah, I concur. I think that I have a much. The older I get, I have a much deeper appreciation for history than I did when I was a little kid. As a kid, I always found it to be the most boring subject in school. But as I get older, I'm like, I definitely can appreciate this a lot more.
Yeah, I think like I'm with you. I mean, I had Wilson in, for American history is great,
It's a testament to a good teacher.
Oh my gosh, she was fantastic. And yeah, I think as you get older, you get a more appreciation of history. But I think for me, it was more an appreciation of the characters in history, like the specific people and like what they did. Like some people you're just like, no way one guy can accomplish that. Mm-hmm. Like some of the people, some of the figures in history, you're just like, dude, like how does somebody do all that? Like you look like,
Right. That's how I felt watching like Hamilton, the play, and like all these like main characters coming out, and you're just like, yeah, George Washington, yeah, go get him. But it's like, yeah, I agree. It's when you're like in school, history is just one of those subjects, along with math. It's like most of the stuff in math, like I'm not going to use like on a day-to-day basis. Why do I have to sit down and learn this? And if I don't, I have to retake it again. This is ridiculous. So my question for you, Ryan, is what like tricks did you do to make it semi-entertaining for some of the students?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest problem that history teachers run into is they don't tell stories. Like I think history it should be centered around storytelling and finding interesting stories of people. But I also was kind of a big believer that kids like talking more to each other than they like listening to me. So if I'm talking, I'm trying to use like videos or visuals or things that they can relate to. But then you're trying to find a good activity where you can get out of the way and let them engage. Because if there's one thing kids are interested in, it's each other. So you want them talking about it. You want them debating it. You want to find something that's debatable. And I think if you're a good teacher, you can find that question. So like, I think I had it pretty easy because I was teaching medieval world history. So like one of our units, we talked about the Incas and the Aztecs, right?
And the Mayans.
Right. Yeah. And so the Aztecs practiced human sacrifice as part of their basic religion. And the kids would be like, yeah, okay. And you're like, kids, the Incas used to sacrifice llamas. And it was like, what, Mr. Cowden? You mean they used to sacrifice llamas? I just told you they were sacrificing humans up north.
Children.
And the kids were like way more freaked out that llamas were being killed than humans. And so like that's a perfect time to have a debate with kids about like, why are you more sad that a llama's being killed than a human's being killed?
Right.
It's like that scene in Braveheart when like all the horses get stabbed and there's always those people you're watching like, oh, the horses.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
There were humans on those horses.
Yeah.
That someone's dad is not coming home.
Exactly.
So like you got to find the question, you got to find like what's interesting about this story and then let the kids debate it. And then watching 12-year-olds have a debate's always fun.
Yeah, but I think that we were talking about, you had mentioned something you like that. Should I be learning more about like the stock market? One of the things everyone always talks about education reform and things that they should be teaching this instead of this. But I think when I think of education reform, I think history is incredibly important. But one thing that I think gets taken way too far in general ed, at least, is math. I think we get way too far into algebra, and I think you should understand basic geometry. And I know you need a little bit of algebra to get to basic geometry, but I think that could be substituted for money management, learning stocks, learning investments, learning how to basically balance a budget. Those are things they don't teach you. And those are things that you use every single day in your adult life. And
or that people are not using.
Yeah. People are not using it.
How much credit card debt do we have? Yeah. Like that should be a class.
Yeah.
Junior year, second semester should be on credit cards.
And how many times I had to use the slope formula in school. I have never used, but I still, do you guys remember what it is?
Slope? I don't know.
X over Y?
No, it's Y equals MX plus B.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
What about the
Y equals
Pythagorean theorem?
The way,
AX squared plus BX equals CX.
I'm thinking of a porno.
I don't think that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Like the amount they taught like the slope formula or whatever, like I had a picture in my head as a kid. I was like, I'm like every day I'm gonna have to use this. Like standing in line for Target, I'm gonna be like trying to figure out how to figure out this slope. It's like, no.
The checker's just like, it's gonna cost Y equals X. $2.
This jug of milk is going to cost you $2 plus the slope formula.
Minus the quadratic equation.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. Again, like you knew when you knew as a student that you weren't going to use this. Like you were smart enough to know at the time. It's not like we were naive. Like we had a pretty good idea we're never going to use this. Our parents told us this. It was very clear. But yet, like it was an elective to take money management. I remember I took that class and I learned about stocks, investments, balancing budgets, careers, like how much careers pay. I thought that was like, why is this an elective?
Yeah,
this should be a requirement, like back in fourth grade.
Yeah,
like this should be something they should know right now.
So I work, for those that don't know, I work at a credit union, right?
Yeah,
and literally as part, good job,
bless you,
bless you, sir. Bless you. No, as part of our community outreach, we literally go out to schools, charter schools, and teach like money management to kids because the school doesn't have a curriculum on it.
I don't
like
understand.
Basic savings, checking, credit card, how they work, auto loans, how like a credit, stuff like that.
College loans?
Yeah.
Do you guys do that?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
you're all going to need to learn how this works.
Yeah. Because it'll affect you for the rest of your life. and these schools don't have that curriculum at all. We're a credit union and we go out and do it for them. It's pretty sad.
They also, like when I was in middle school, like I had a class where it was like some, I don't know, lifestyle class or something. And they had like this week that they were talking about like finances and like budgeting and all this stuff like that adults do. And they had a day where they just talked about credit cards and all they talked about And all I took away from that class was credit cards are bad. Never get a credit card. And then when I grew up, I was like, wait a second, I need credit if I want to do anything in life.
Right.
It's like, if you teach us like at least the right things, like the right information, so we can like make the decision on our own.
There was a class in middle school. I think you might have taken it as well. It was it was only it was a quarter class. It wasn't even a semester class. We had it for literally 2 months. But it was called Quest.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I actually really enjoyed that class. But I think all we did was just make like collages and just put stuff together. And again, this is middle school at this point. Like, we're not like little kids. I'm thinking, looking back, going, as fun as that was a waste of time. It was just a waste. Like, I actually could have learned something very valuable to my life, and I don't understand how adults haven't figured this out. They're like, yeah, maybe we should cut out the quest and maybe teach them how to like balance a budget. Maybe what's more useful? Let's put some collages together, or like, which one's more valuable?
Well, collages are pretty cool.
I have like 4 of them in the other room.
They're all framed right now in your bedroom.
I can't stop collaging.
Do you ever make collages at the credit union?
All the time.
Yeah.
Out of the money.
Yeah.
We just tear up money and make collages. That's all we do.
Out of the shredded money.
Yep.
Just millions of dollars.
We just shred money
on the wall.
That's all we do.
So Ryan, you didn't like teaching history, so what was your favorite subject?
Oh, no, I did like history.
Oh, you did.
That
like
was
it.
my favorite.
Oh, but you learned not to teach what you like.
I think it would maybe be more helpful because like if a kid says I don't get it, I am like, what do you mean? Like, I just told you. Like,
what are you talking about?
And that's how every math teacher is, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't get it. Well, I just drew it all over the board. Like, what don't you get? You know?
Yeah.
It's hard to understand why a kid doesn't get it when you get it.
Right.
So there's this weird.
That's so frustrating.
I think it might be better for me to have been a math teacher because I could have sympathized with the kids more. And when I did after school tutoring, my favorite was to work with kids on math because we could figure it out together, and there was like a sense of accomplishment there. Mm-hmm. You know.
So I have a question.
Was there ever a kid where you're just like, I can't teach you?
Several.
He's referring to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are kids who struggle. The hard thing as a teacher is like, I had probably 180 kids that I was responsible for.
Right.
You know, so like, you just don't have like the time or the energy to give that like personalized feedback to every kid.
Right.
You know, so you're kind of like, you do your best to hit all of them, but then you're kind of like building relationships with some of them, and you're trying to build what you can to get them all through. But yeah, sometimes you're just not going to reach a kid, you know. You're not going to connect with every person you meet. And you have to be okay with that.
Lost cause. Do you think that people's inability to learn is outside of any like physical impairment, like the handicap or something? Mm-hmm. Do you think some kids are just naturally, they just can't learn? Like they have this inability to learn, or is it more, I guess it's kind of like, if you want to boil this down, this is more of a nature versus nurture question. Do you think it's more of the circumstances, or do you think like some kids are just naturally unable to learn?
I think kids have different like strengths and disabilities, but I also feel like the most important thing to capture with the student is like their motivation and their engagement. Like, you may not necessarily be the most gifted person at something, but if you're passionate about it, you're going to learn how to do it. Right? Like, when I started playing guitar, I was terrible at it, but I stuck with it because I loved guitar. You know, like, I think that's more of the key, is like trying to get kids to care in some way about what you're teaching, even if it's like, this will get you a job someday, or this is a problem we can overcome. But I think the kids who don't learn on some level, maybe they don't think they can, but they don't. I don't want to say they don't care, because kids don't want to fail. But when you look at kids who are succeeding, it's because they've found the motivation to succeed. And the kids who aren't succeeding, I think we could help them find that.
What would you say to a student who thought that like Napoleon Dynamite was a leader of war?
We'll never forget. Never forget.
Dude, if this night is any indication, I would have been like, yeah, he was a French leader. I probably wouldn't catch it till much later.
How far back does your history go? Middle Ages?
So we started with like the fall of the Roman Empire.
I thought you were referring to him personally.
How old are you?
I go all the way back to the late 80s,
Son of a gun.
the golden period. But yeah, man.
So the fall of the Roman Empire to
It's like
the
400 to 1400.
Renaissance.
A little after that, like Columbus,
Okay.
kind of that time period. It's
Who?
really fun. There's a lot of fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of things happen there.
Would you even be allowed to teach about Columbus anymore?
Yes. I don't know if you're allowed to celebrate Columbus anymore,
Fair enough.
but we taught about him.
That's fair, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever talk about Pangea?
That would be before my time. Like before, I'd be like maybe ancient history.
Yeah, that's going back a ways.
I'll go back even further if you want.
Pangea.
Wow.
Do you ever talk about the Big Bang?
The show on NBC?
You guys go into Precambrian?
Do you ever do something like in class that you just totally embarrass yourself in front of your students?
That's a good. I was like notorious for like. I would like trip a lot. I would like trip over stuff, and I'm like a very loud sneezer.
I would love for you to sneeze right now.
I would like sneeze, and they would all look at me like, was that a cough, or a burp, or a sneeze? They couldn't tell.
Or death.
Anybody got a feather right now? I can just.
Get some pepper.
Some pepper.
Yeah.
What's the most embarrassing thing you guys have done in class?
Me?
Me? Oh. Luke?
Try to learn
I try to learn.
Raising my hand.
Yeah.
like an idiot.
No, I was painfully shy in class. That was actually one of my questions. How do you deal with a super shy student that just like can't even raise their hand?
I don't force them to talk. Some teachers do. My goal is to like make them feel safe enough to where they want to participate.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is that'll happen over the course of the year if you give it time.
Right. Last day
But
of
like
school.
calling on a kid,
Hand goes up slowly. Finally,
hey,
I've won.
yeah,
Dramatic
it'll
music
happen.
plays.
Yeah.
Some of the most important times as a teacher is like before the bell rings and after the bell rings. If you can make some time to talk to a kid, that's
Just
like
enough time to snort a
Oh, I
line.
thought you meant a bit.
Do another shot of whiskey.
Wow, I gotta get wound up.
Walk into the class. All right.
All right, boys and girls.
We're going to learn about history. You guys ever seen the movie Napoleon Dynamite?
Treaty of Versailles.
Treaty of Versailles. It's not Middle Ages.
Something.
It's something.
What about embarrassing moments?
teaching middle school is like a lesson in like, man, I'm so old, I'm not young anymore, and I'm not cool. Like that was
Way
just
past that.
you're constantly being reminded every day that you're not a part of their world.
Not
you
hip
know?
to the groove, man.
Yeah.
Dude, what are these two laughing?
I don't know.
Oh, man.
I can't imagine
anyway.
Cody being a teacher.
Oh God, I'd be so awesome at it. I don't know what I'd teach, but I'd be good at it. What was your embarrassing moment?
Okay, cocky bastard.
What'd you say to me? I'll fight you right here.
You talking back to me?
This is turning into an argument. What was your most embarrassing moment, Joel?
What's that?
What was
Oh, what's that?
what,
Right now. It's right now.
what was the most embarrassing
This
moment
moment.
for you in school?
Oh, jeez. There was a time, I always think about this. It was so stupid, but we were giving a presentation. It was like me and 4 other kids in front of the whiteboard. And you know how like the whiteboard has like that little tray thing at the bottom where you put like the markers and stuff. And I had my hand like resting on it. I was kind of like leaning against it. And my hand like slipped and like scooted against it. And it made just a super loud like farting noise in front of like 5th graders. So it was just like the worst, like, all right, well, I'm never going to convince them that it wasn't a fart. Like, I'm just going to be that kid.
because it was
smelled.
an actual fart.
Because it stank.
I smelled it.
And he's gone.
That was the last we heard from Joel.
Yeah. And he signs off.
Okay.
He's leaving. Joel, we're still here. Okay, he's back.
Oh.
How about you? What was your embarrassing story?
I barfed in 4th grade in front of the whole class. Has anyone ever done that?
I've puked in
Oh, really?
school. Yeah,
Oh.
I puked, and I got pantsed one
Oh.
time in like front of class, like the whole class.
By the teacher.
By the teacher.
Nerd.
Show you being in my class.
Yeah.
It's the class on anatomy.
Anthropology.
All right,
I
kids,
need
we're
a
gonna learn about
volunteer.
anatomy.
Get up here, boy.
Sucker.
He hasn't evolved.
He hasn't evolved.
He's built like a
He's
Ken
a
doll.
weird mutant.
What grade was this? How old were you?
I think this was like 5th grade or something like that. It was a horrible
He's built like
time.
an English muffin.
It was horrible.
English muffin. What does that mean?
It doesn't even mean anything.
He doesn't have to.
Touche. Cody.
He's built like an English muffin. Oh man.
Oh, good heavens.
That reminds me, I puked too. I puked in front of this super attractive girl when I was like super sick, and I was like walking to the health office, or no, to the bathroom, and I was like, it was literally just me and her in the hall, and I was like trying to hold it back, and as we were like passing each other, I just puked right at her feet.
This was
Dang it.
This was 6 months ago.
Yeah, this is at work. This wasn't school.
It was at work.
Yeah.
Joel, I remember for some reason, like I remember when we were in elementary school. I don't know what Dillon is. When we were in elementary school, you threw up at one point, like in kindergarten or something, or like 1st grade, and I was in 5th grade or 4th grade, and the teacher made me leave and walk you to the office because like you were sick. Do you remember that?
No. The heck?
Yeah, like they knew I was your brother. Like they made me leave class and like walk you to the office because you were like sick or something. It was really weird.
All right. They literally didn't want to get like an adult. They're just like, let's make him sick.
Yeah,
Send him.
yeah, make him sick. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah, well, funny enough, I guess it's either puking or getting pantsed in this group, apparently, because I got pants, and that was the most embarrassing thing. That was in middle school, and it was out on PE, and in PE, the classes are way bigger than a normal class because there's other classes. So there was literally like 100 kids around, and some kid just, in front of me, just yanked my shorts down. Fortunately, my underwear stayed on, so that would have been way worse. But I remember being so mad. I mean, I just like started wailing on that kid, just started punching him and whatnot. Fortunately, I didn't get in trouble, but I just remember being like, I was just horrified. Like, dude, I can't believe this kid just did this to me. Like, that's terrible. Like, I would never do that. I wouldn't do that to my worst enemy. Like, pants in front of like hundreds of other kids. Like, gosh, dang it, what a dork. I still remember that kid too. I want to name drop him, but if I find him,
Still sour about it, Dylan?
still a little bit. This was like 2 weeks ago.
he's our number one fan.
I was held back.
He's our only subscriber.
He's our only subscriber.
He's coming back from war.
Come back for more, I swear.
Let's talk about one more thing. I just wanted to bring this up because you guys are like creators, and I want to talk about like if life would be different for you guys if you'd been kids with social media. I think like my middle school, high school is similar to you guys because you guys were making films, right? You doing the film thing, and I was in a band, and we would make recordings. We'd sell the CDs at lunch, and we'd blow all our money at like Denny's, right? Like that was fun. But there was no objective measure of our value. You know what I mean? Like we kind of thought we were good and that was it. But like when I look at the kids today and you see like when they put stuff up on social media, there's like instantly a numerical value. Like there's how many followers you have on YouTube, or there's how many reposts or how many likes you have. And I wonder if that would be more challenging for us if we were back in high school today Like, would you guys think you'd be more reserved putting stuff out there, knowing that there's likes and there's ratings? Because back in our day, like there was no way of knowing how good or bad you were. There was just what you thought about yourself.
Yeah.
And nowadays there's a numerical value to something.
That's a tough question, just because I feel like when we were making those skits and stuff, like we did it literally just for us. Like we weren't thinking like, oh, when somebody watches this, they're going to think it's funny. It's like, we're just going to film it because we are cracking up and we can't get through this take. That's why it's funny. Or that's why we want to do it. I think if we grew up with like Instagram and Facebook being so big, I don't know. I honestly feel like we would still be like, because we were doing such weird stuff, we would be too embarrassed to share it, kind of thing.
So you don't think you'd even post it if you were around today?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I wouldn't want to.
We're posting this, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, now I don't really care. Now that I'm a professional in the professional world. Dillon doesn't know.
I would do it all over again. To tell you the truth,
We didn't do anything. Do what all over again?
I'd post all those videos, and I would be like, "Hey, look at our videos."
You have no shame.
No, I don't. But it's not obvious already.
Well, I think that to cheat a little bit here, we kind of did have a little bit of a hybrid of both, because I think we actually were still in school when MySpace first kicked off. So I think we had like 1 or 2 years. We were at the very tip end of our regular school experience. By the time we were in college, MySpace and Facebook were already becoming a thing. But at least in my experience, actually, I don't know. You guys are probably a little bit older. I know Joel and I had MySpace.
I'm probably a little older.
We had MySpace, but we never. I mean, MySpace wasn't like somewhere you posted like videos. It was more just pictures.
True. This is true. But as far as like social media goes, there was like that your profile. You know, like, this is who I am. I'm on the webs. But I think that it is a tough question, because I think there is a lot more pressure for kids nowadays to have that status. As adults do it too. You know, you got to look cool on the internet, or else you're just not a cool person in general.
Yeah, and it takes away like your natural ability to do what you sincerely think might be the best option in that moment, right? Like if I was so conscious of posting something on Instagram, or that I knew it was going to be seen by all my friends or everybody at school, I probably wouldn't make the same decisions as if I knew that it was just going to be us watching it, which would probably make it less funny, just because I'm trying to like be cool at the same time as being funny, and it just doesn't turn out. So I think, I mean, to answer your question, I think it would negatively affect us if we were so conscious of like social media and like how people looked at us and all that stuff. I think it actually benefited us that we weren't on Instagram and weren't on Facebook, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's wrong.
I agree. Touche. Here. Hear, hear.
Here. Cheers.
All right, I think we're done, everybody. Well, thank you, Ryan, for this very deep conversation.
Thanks for having me, cousins.
Yeah, yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're gonna have to do this again. We've already been talking about a potential third episode with you.
Yeah,
we're talking about more exciting stuff soon.
It has to be a trilogy. Can't stop at 2.
Yeah, you can't have just acts 1 and 2. There's always got to be an ending to this thing. I'm a third act guy.
That means this will be the best podcast we do.
All right, everybody. Thank you out there for watching. Thank you again, Ryan. Again, his podcast is called The School of Thought Podcast. You can catch that on SoundCloud. Is that right?
Yep.
Awesome. Yes, please check him out there. It's a really interesting podcast for more of these in-depth conversations without us goofballs, ruining the whole thing. But probably
real
talking
conversations.
Real conversations with a lot smarter people, probably. But anyway, yes, please check that out there. But if you want to check out more of our conversations, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on SoundCloud as well at That Cousin Show. We're on iTunes as well, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check us out there. But until then, come back next week for another episode, and we will see you guys there.
See ya.